Are you troubled by negative thinking? Is there one particular negative thought that is reoccurring, one that is haunting you, one that is causing an unpleasant emotional reaction within you? Well, I am here to remind you how you can claim your power away from this negative thinking and actually wake up to your inherent power to choose not to think these certain thoughts as they arise. Now, we might not be able to actually help what thoughts pop into our mind space, but it is in our power to accept whatever arises and then choose not to follow that thought stream. So in this video, I'm going to explain how you can do this. So firstly, we need to see the bigger picture, which is that thoughts are a mental projection. They are arising within your awareness. They are not you. And this is so important because you may feel powerless to these thoughts because of the fact that you believe that that voice, that narrative in your head is you, but it is not you. It cannot be trusted, yet we blindly follow it because we believe it. We believe what it is saying and we have trust in it. But in actuality, what it is it's the egoic mind, it's the conditioned egoic mind that is just a result of our previous experiences and our belief systems and so on. It's not representative of who we actually are, and really actually we possess the power to say no to a thought. We possess the power to drop a thought in any given moment, and we possess the power to really claim and embody what we are beyond the mind. The mind, it wasn't designed to be our master. We were designed to be the master of the mind. One teaching that really helps me to kind of anchor myself in the bigger picture is one of Eckhart Tolle's teachings. He talks about thoughts as being like tiny little entities, basically, and that they have their own little vibrational frequency, as we know each thought does, and then it is a vibrational match to a similar thought. So we want to kind of disidentify from these thoughts through actually seeing them as tiny little entities that, like entities do, want to survive. So we only can kind of fuel their existence by feeding them with similar thoughts. So if we blindly follow a thought stream, identifying with it, feeding it more and more and more, then yes, these entities get bigger and we're really just kind of allowing them to survive. And yes, because they want to survive, they really lure us in, they tempt us in, they're seductive, we have interest in them. And as long as we're identified with them as well, of course, we're going to continue to keep feeding them and keep giving them what they want. And in time, these entities can turn into these big, massive, great big creatures that we call belief systems. And the belief systems, they can really, really wreak havoc on our emotional body. Belief systems such as I'm not good enough and things like that can really cause havoc in our life. So what we really do want to do is we want to change our thinking and we want to say no to thoughts. And in doing so, we're not battling these thoughts. We're not doing that. What we're doing instead is we're actually just choosing not to think them anymore and to take the attention and away from the thought. In doing so, we are not feeding the entity. We cannot allow it to survive anymore. And in time, the thought pattern or the belief system, it begins to fade as a result. So zooming into what actually occurs when this thought, the first original negative thought, pops into the mind space. Okay then, so we've got this tiny little vibrational frequency, this tiny entity within us that is then a match to another entity with a similar vibration. And then another one and another one, another one. These thoughts, they give birth to similar thoughts, okay? And sometimes this can then escalate. It picks up momentum and it can actually turn into a mind attack. Especially if one thought, it holds a particular power over us and it's particularly ruthless, then we can, sooner or later, we find ourselves in this kind of real unpleasant emotional state as a result, and our head is going crazy. So we could also end up catastrophizing. It all starts with one negative thought. So what we want to do is we want to really catch it early on before that momentum picks up, because once the momentum picks up, it's so much more difficult to wake up and actually disidentify from the thought and to stop that momentum. So we want to catch it early, and in order to do this, we really want to have our witness perspective, our witness consciousness. We want to have our ability to wake up within a thought and realize deeply that this thought is not serving me. It is not serving me, so therefore I will not choose to go down that road. I will not entertain this thought, and I will not feed it. I will not allow it to grow. You are powerful and you are not a slave to your mind. The only reason that this thought could possibly have any power over you is if you are, one, interested in what it has to say, and two, identified with it. But we know that this thought is not representative of who you actually are, and it is also just really not serving you in this moment. We've been there, we've done that, we've experienced the emotional reactions in the past. What is the point in jeopardizing our peaceful headspace? Why don't we just choose in that moment, as the observer, in our power, to resist the urge to follow that thought stream, resist the urge to feed that entity, and to instead choose a more peaceful option, which is to say no. Cut it off, claim our power, and say no to this thought. So how can we catch these thoughts and say no to them? Well, first of all, something occurs which I call the switch. So that is basically our switch in perspective from one that is identified with mind to one that is observing the mind, one that is aware of the thoughts that they are having, basically. Oh, I'm having this thought, rather than being like, oh no, worst case scenario, oh my God, negative thought. Instead, oh, I'm having this thought. And obviously there isn't necessarily a narrative that says, oh, I'm having this thought, but it is a shift in perspective. And it is a very subtle shift in perspective, but it is immensely powerful, because when we pop out and see ourselves having this thought, that is when we can quite easily claim our power away from it, away from identification with it. So what we want to do is, oh, I just had this thought. Take a deep breath in. Inhalation, exhalation. Doesn't matter when you catch the thought, as long as you catch it. Okay, I've just had this negative thought. Take that deep breath, because the breath, what it does is it's your doorway into presence. In that moment, not only does it feel good, it's relaxing, but it also brings you straight into the present moment, which cuts off the momentum. It cuts off that feeding kind of process that happens. And as you cut off that momentum, then you are then faced with a blank canvas, and you are faced at this kind of crossroads. Okay, what do I do now? So the world is our oyster at this point in time. What will we choose to do? Whatever, we're going to claim our mastery away from the thought. Now, you may choose to rest in stillness, to be present, to occupy just nothingness in the mind space. This can be a little tricky, especially if we've, if it's still lingering in the background, this entity, it wants to be thought. So what we can also do is we can basically just choose to counteract the thoughts with a more desirable one, with a higher vibrational frequency, one that may be considered positive. Do some journaling, come up with a narrative to reprogram your mind, come up with a thought stream that is maybe more logical, because a lot of the time our thinking, these thoughts that pop into our head, are totally illogical. But you want to remember not to identify with the positive thought either, because if you identify with the positive thought, then you're going to identify with the negative thought. So remember, this is all just mastery. Now, another thing that you could do is you could also distract your mind, much like a baby is distracted with a toy, basically. You could listen to some music, exercise, meditate, go for a walk in nature. There's also things like laughter. Laughter is great. I'm a big fan of that. The ego exists in seriousness, and sometimes, as I say, these thoughts can be totally illogical. So try to see the funny side of it, potentially, if there is one. There's also visualization. Visualization is very effective for me. It's very powerful. Sometimes I like to put thoughts in cabinets. So I have these imaginary cabinets, and I just open them, take the thought, put it in there, close the cabinet, get on with my day. So that's another powerful one. Now, this is a practice that, if consistent, has the power to transform your negative thinking, dissolve your negative belief systems, to stop your overthinking, and generally create a more healthy, peaceful headspace. The first time that you say no to a thought and you decide, okay, I'm gonna really claim my power and choose not to think that thought in that moment, that you might do that once and you might think, oh, okay, I did that, that's cool, okay, it was very freeing. But you do that again and again and again and again and again. You are dissolving these entities. They cannot survive anymore. These belief systems, they just cannot survive unless you fuel them. So you just keep saying no. And every time you do that, you're one step closer to freedom. And witness consciousness, that is why this practice is so incredible. Speaking from my own experience, because it is pure freedom. And it's not to say that you can just wake up one day and be completely disidentified from mind. We yo-yo in and out. Some people do wake up one day completely disidentified. But for many of us, it is also a process that unravels naturally. Learning to disidentify from the mind and cultivating this witness consciousness, embodying really what we truly are, that in and of itself means that we can really deeply lose interest in the mind and its chatter. And it means that we can really not be tempted by this kind of all-consuming negative thought that might wreak havoc within us. And it is very important to accept when you are unable to say no to a thought. Sometimes we are more identified with our mind than other times. From day to day, from moment to moment, from year to year. This is a practice that unravels in divine timing, and we must accept the rhythm, the rhythmic flow of life. And some days we're going to be able to practice this more than other days. And on those days where that thought stream comes in and we don't have the strength and the power to resist it, and when it just keeps coming back and haunting us, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. You're gonna have to accept that, because if you get yourself in a state with more resisting thoughts that are resisting it, then we're just propelling it further and further. So try your best to kind of sit back and watch yourself go through it. Watch that there was a deeper presence that is observing yourself having this, this tempting thought, following this thought, experiencing this mind attack. Notice that deeper place inside of you that is observing it, even if you are unable to say no to it. Try not to judge yourself, guys, because you're always doing the best you can. So regardless, when these thoughts come up, this is great because this is an opportunity to practice your practice, and whatever we practice, we get better at. So some kind of common occurrences that might happen where you can really practice this, where it might be a bit easier than kind of, really deeply ingrained belief systems that have been going for a while. They might be a little bit more tricky, but some easier places to start here. Maybe things like, okay, something happens at work, someone annoys you, and then you have this narrative that pops up about the situation. Okay, you've got a decision to make. Are you going to continue to feed that narrative and let it ruin your day? Or are you going to just think, oh, nah, drop it, come back to a peaceful mind? Things like, catching yourself if you are giving yourself some kind of negative self-talk. I can't believe I did that. Blah, 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 blah. You should have done that. How could you do that? You're a terrible person. Blah, blah, blah. I'm having this thought about myself. Okay. Well, that doesn't make me feel good. Drop. Catastrophizing. When we starts off with one thought and then it's another, and then worst case scenario, try and catch that thought at the beginning. Okay, this is kind of illogical. I'm kind of wasting my time here thinking about a potential outcome. Drop. And I'm free. So just remember, guys, that it is your mind that is causing your suffering. It is the mind that is going to be able to allow you to experience a peaceful life or a chaotic, troublesome, negative experience. So what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose to really focus your attention on mastering your mind space so you can glide through life? And really embody what you are beyond the mind as well. And this is a choice that you can make really in any given moment, but I can assure you that it has been so incredibly life-changing for me, just actually working with the mind and mastering this little tiny space through which I actually perceive reality. This tiny space that actually reflects my reality at any given moment. I want to really master that, and through mastering that, it has the power to transform my experience on this planet for this little lifetime. So thank you so much for watching this video. My name's Jasmine. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in speaking with me one-on-one, then you can book a 25-minute video chat with me, and you can see the link below for that. And yeah, I really look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye 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 bye.